proper productive action. So that's what Krishna is trying to tell in this particular section. So this whole chapter, we are speaking about transcendental knowledge, transcendental knowledge. So the idea of transcendental knowledge is, if you want to act in a very detached way, you need to have all this knowledge, that whatever we are discussing about being the spirit soul, or being detached from the results, or focusing, not being in anxiety, but rather focusing on work at hand, and how this kind of a dedicated action, when you dedicate your action to the supreme, it can actually lead to liberation. So this is the knowledge that Krishna is calling it as transcendental knowledge. How do we get this knowledge? You can listen to a class, but that's not enough. So Krishna is giving, how do you practically receive this knowledge in your own life? That's one of the questions we are all asking in our minds. Okay, I understand all of these things, but how is it going to become lived reality? How would it, how the knowledge in the book will become a wisdom in my heart? So Krishna is saying that is the idea through spiritual practice. So he calls it as yajna here. Yajna is basically a spiritual practice. So your theoretical knowledge, when coupled with actual real work in the form of yajna, then it transforms into wisdom. So that's what he is going to explain, that how different people do different kinds of, according to their own faith, according to their social situation, according to their according to their yeah, spiritual situation. So they may do one of these different sacrifices, and some of these people could be doing the sacrifice for selfish reasons. I'm not saying selfish reason, but more for a mundane reason, or for a spiritual reason. It could be various ways. We will see all of those things, but these are the different types of sacrifices. These are very Vedic. You may not come across this on in a daily basis, but these are prescribed for karma kandis and karma yogis and for jnana yogis, like that. So it may sound foreign, but the idea is these are the prescribed duties through which you can transfer your knowledge into wisdom. So some people do sacrifices to demigods. Sacrifice means yagya. Yagya is a fire sacrifice in the Vedic tradition, where the mantras are chanted and oblations are given into the fire. And through the fire, the oblations are received by the respective demigods to whom the sacrifice is being offered. So some yogis worship demigods by offering various sacrifices, and some people offer the sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman, aiming for a higher spiritual realization. Because people who worship demigods may be worshipping them for some immediate benefit, to have a better life in this world, or in the next life, going to heavenly planets and all of those things. But some people are not interested in all of those things. They just want to have higher spiritual realization. So they may offer the sacrifice in the fire of Supreme Brahman. And the other, there are brahmacharis who are unmarried, monks, celibates. So they actually use the hearing sense. They hear about spiritual knowledge and offer that hearing the knowledge in this fire of mental control, because this brahmacharis are supposed to control their mind, control their senses. So they are supposed to hear spiritual knowledge. That is their sacrifice. That is their yagya. By hearing that and controlling the mind, they purify the mind, and then they develop spiritual knowledge. However, there may be other yogis who are not unmarried. They may be married, they may be living with a family, but they also can offer the sacrifice. How? A brahmachari offers sacrifice by restraining the senses, but a grihastha, who is a married householder, offers the sacrifice by engaging the senses. You see how beautiful it is? For one person, restraining the senses is his sacrifice. For the other person, engaging the senses is the sacrifice. So a regulated householder engages their senses in all kinds of activities, and then offers that as a uh, sacrifice to the Supreme. By at the same time they're controlling their senses, at the same time engaging with the world. and through the money they receive and through the wealth that comes through that activity, they offer a oblation unto the Supreme. They dedicate it to the Supreme. So this is a sacrifice of hearing and the senses by brahmacharis and householders. And sacrifice of mind and senses. There are yogis who would be offering their senses because they'll stop all the activity of the senses and just focus on the life breath. Their attention is focused on life breath. Pranayam, they call, you can, in simple terms, I can call it as pranayam. So for that, you need to control your mind. You need to stop the activity of senses, and you have to sit in a particular way and then engage in breathing and just focus on the breathing. So this is one kind of activity. This we will see in chapter 5. We will speak about Ashtanga Yoga in chapter 6. And sacrifice through vows and practices. People take strict vows and austerities that I will only eat one day, or I'll only eat these things, or I will not eat. So many ways of taking strict vows and adhering to it and performing austerities, and especially practicing the Eightfold Yoga mystic process that is called as Ashtanga Yoga, which we will see in chapter 6. So verses 27, 28, and 29, these three are speaking about Ashtanga Yoga, or Hatha Yoga, you can call that some aspect of it. Overall, it is called as Ashtanga Yoga. Or we will see this in detail in chapter 6. So Krishna is sowing the seed for what is about to come in the later chapter. So we will see this section detailed in the chapter 6. How does this person offer the senses in the life breath? And then sacrifice of possessions, and how does this person engage in Eightfold mystic yoga practice. And the last way of sacrificing for a yogi is restraining their breath and offering the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming into the outgoing. So basically pranayam. And eventually stop all breathing to remain in trance. So that is also part of Ashtanga Yoga. And control the eating process and use this control. This is called as pratyahara, means controlling the eating process, and use this control as a form of sacrifice. So basically this is all austerity, detaching oneself from the body. That is the basic and the mind and the senses. So that is the basic activity of sacrifice. Unless we detach ourselves from this body and think that we are not this body and we are the spirit soul and we have a connection with God, and how do we engage in that connection with God? So that is the sacrifice. If you are picking up your japamala in the morning and you're chanting a round of holy names, that's a sacrifice. That's called as yajna. If you are picking up a flower and offering to Krishna, that with the right attitude and with the right intention, so then that is a sacrifice. If you're offering a cup of water to Krishna, so that is a sacrifice. If you're offering a small fruit or a flower or a leaf or a water, Krishna says with devotion anyone offers it. That is yajna actually. So when we engage in that sacrifice regularly, then that produces knowledge. That gives us more and more spiritual knowledge, because you cannot just do the sacrifice without understanding why you are doing it. So that is the next section. Many people may do it as a ritual. Every day morning, they may just wake up, go before the picture they have in their altar. They may just do like this, or they may do some incense. They may do many things as rituals, but they won't give knowledge. Those rituals may not give knowledge. So that is why we are going to discuss in the next section from verses 30 onwards, especially what is the purpose of all these sacrifices, how to do it rightly, what is the necessity of doing this, and how do I do it rightly, and what is the result of this sacrifice. That's what we are going to discuss in the remaining few verses. So let's hope to finish this section today until the verse 33. We only have few verses. So any questions or anything before? I'm not able to see you guys. If anybody has a question, unmute yourself.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
So, so I just want to understand the boundary between like one way we have to give our sacrifices, and the other way we have to if you are brahmachari, that's fine. You can go for sacrifice. But on the other way, when we are associated with family, we have to engage ourselves in the work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I just want to understand the boundary where, I mean, a boundary or I think you can get the perception what I want to say. Ki where we should go for sacrifice in the family when you are with the family and when you should not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Raviji. The word sacrifice is, for want of a better word, I have just used it as an English translation for yagya. So the idea is yagya. So forget the word sacrifice, because the word sacrifice has many connotations and meanings. So the word we are looking at is yagya. Yagya means a spiritual activity or an activity which is dedicated to God is called as yagya. It could be your work. If you're engaging the results of that work, the money that comes from, the influence that comes from, the position that comes from, and the other resources that you get through your work, engaging in this world, if you are
Mhm.
engaging it for your own family's welfare and
Mhm.
also for your own spiritual life, so then that is already a sacrifice. That is a yagya. So that is what, if you see in the 26th verse, regulated householders with their controlled senses, if they
Mhm.
engage the object of their senses,
Mhm.
a regulated householder is allowed to engage with the world, but not in a way to enjoy the world, rather to actually with controlled senses, with a purpose he needs to engage with the world.
Okay, okay, got it. Got
Good.
it.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So we're going to see what is the purpose of the sacrifice. Krishna explains in the verse 30th. So the purpose of all sacrifices is like it purifies oneself from of all sins. So the more we get free from the sins, the more knowledge actually manifests in our heart. Because currently we are being distracted by all our past reactions, and the more we control our senses and more we engage in the sacrifice, we become purified, and transcendental knowledge simultaneously reveals in our heart. So, for that, one needs to do the activity properly. Maybe I'm just offering one flower to Krishna, but I need to know why am I doing that? Because my parent told, so I just go there, offer one flower, and then I'm going, no, why am I doing that? Why am I offering that flower? Who's Krishna? Who am I? What is the reason for this offering? What happens if I don't do it? What happens when I do it in the right way? That knowledge, with that knowledge, when we engage, then gradually it becomes a spiritual experience, and liberation is the byproduct of this whole thing. So one is guided towards the supreme destination eventually. So, this is the purpose of sacrifice, to control our senses currently so that we can be freed from the bad influences, and also gradually the transcendental knowledge becomes revealed in our heart and then eventually leads us to the supreme destination. That's the purpose of a yagya. So, what is the need for yagya? Why should anybody do yagya? Oh, I'm just 15-year old, I'm just 20-year old, I'm 25-year old. Why should I do any yajna? What is the need? So the idea is, the age is for the body. There is no age for the soul. The soul is eternal. But currently, the soul is stuck in this material body and suffering, be it in a younger body or in a elderly body. It's just a matter of time. The 10-year-old will become a 50-year-old in the passage of time. So the body is just going to change. There is no age for the soul. So in that sense, all of us actually have the need to be liberated from this entanglement of uh, material life. So that is one need that everybody has, be it young people or older people. Everybody needs to everybody is going through the same bondage in this world, and while living we can live happily if our ignorance is removed. So that is why we all naturally look for knowledge. That is a very natural tendency of human beings. We always ask, okay, how about this, how about that, why this, why that. Knowledge is the nature of the soul. So by engaging in sacrifice, we can remove the ignorance and give ourselves more and more knowledge and fulfillment of needs. We might do our job and we might get money, but if there is no produce in the market, what will we buy with our money? So those things happen, like Krishna explains that how annad bhavanti bhutani, parjanyad anna sambhavaha. This world is maintained by grains, and the grains are produced from rain. and the rain comes from performing proper yajna. So when you chant Hare Krishna, you're not just benefiting your own self, but you're also creating a positive vibration in the world, and you're also offering it as a sacrifice that helps in upkeeping the world order. So our fulfillment of needs, our daily basic needs, we are not just receiving it automatically. We cannot live without air, water, or fire, and all these things. They are not manufactured in any industry. So water does not come from Bisleri or for all these companies, but they say it's a spring water, but they just bottle it. But who produced the spring? Where is the water coming from? So those needs are fulfilled by nature under the law of Krishna, under the supervision of Krishna. So pleasing and giving it back is our duty. So that is how we become full, our basic needs become fulfilled eventually, not just by having money alone. Money is one part of the puzzle. So fulfillment of those needs, everybody, all of us eat, drink, and enjoy in this world. So that you need to pay. And also elevation of one's consciousness. We are currently in bodily consciousness, and we could elevate ourselves from the bodily consciousness and achieve spiritual consciousness by performing yajna. So that is why we need to perform sacrifices. So the acronym is life, liberation, ignorance being destroyed, or gaining spiritual intelligence, and fulfillment of our needs, and elevating our spiritual consciousness gradually. So these are the reasons that why we need to do sacrifice. Last but one slide, I would say, why different sacrifices? Why there are different kinds of sacrifices? We saw those 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, those verses. We saw different types of sacrifice. Why are there different kinds of sacrifice? Krishna says, because people are of different levels of faith. Some people can directly worship Krishna. Some people want to perform Ashtanga Yoga. Some people want to meditate on Brahman. Some people want to meditate on Paramatma. Some just don't want to do anything. They just want to work and dedicate the results to the society. So different people have different levels of faith. So according to their faith, they will engage in one of those sacrifices. That's why different sacrifices are given. And also different medicines for different patients. We have different kind of consciousness. Based on that, one might be a brahmachari, one might be a grihastha. We have different problems. Our psychophysical nature is different. So different medicines for different patients, and bodily conception of life. Like somebody may be strongly identifying with the body, somebody may be identifying with the mind, somebody may be identifying with the intelligence, someone's ego may be stronger. So it's all very different how our material consciousness manifests. Accordingly, the yajna is also prescribed. And what is the result of all of these sacrifices? The result of all the sacrifices is basically gaining transcendental knowledge. So sacrifice must be performed with the knowledge of the purpose and the goal. Why am I doing this? Why am I chanting? Why am I doing an arti? Why am I offering flowers to Krishna? Why am I offering food to Krishna? Why am I offering this water to Krishna? Why am I doing this? So with that knowledge of the purpose and the goal of this sacrifice or yajna, then the yajna culminates in transcendental knowledge. So Krishna says, like when you perform a yajna with knowledge and somebody is performing yajna without knowledge, performing with knowledge is much better because it will produce immediate or quick results. It will produce transcendental knowledge quicker. So it's better to know why we are doing what we are doing. And Krishna also says, some people may sacrifice material possessions. They may give in charity. They may give basically charity. They may sacrifice material possessions, but without any knowledge. They may give out. It is good. There is nothing wrong in doing charity, but doing it with the proper knowledge is much better. So when a sacrifice is done properly, it culminates in transcendental knowledge. It leads to the transcendental knowledge. It makes us understand that I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. Who is Krishna? What is my connection? So that could look different people for different people differently. But in general, in this age of Kali Yuga, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has prescribed, as Srila Prabhupada has recommended, chanting Hare Krishna is the easiest yagya that we all could do in our daily life. You may be 10-year-old or you may be 70-year-old. We all could do that very easily. So that is the most practical way of performing yagya in our daily lives, chanting Hare Krishna and offering food. We all eat every day. So even if you eat some things which are not offerable, you think at least offer those things which are offerable. At least you can offer a fruit, you can offer water, you can offer some rice, some yogurt, something you start including in your own life. Don't think, oh, I'm not following all the rules, so I will not do it at all. No, you can start somewhere. Start at least making some offerings to Krishna. Have a picture of Krishna and offer your prayers at least once a day. Just even offer a cup of water if that is all you could do. But have a prayer and personally try to do that. So that really results in eventually in transcendental knowledge. And that's all for today. And we are in the last section of this chapter, which we will take up in the coming week. Hopefully, we'll finish the chapter 4 next week completely. And then we will go on to see chapter 5. So any questions we can take now? So thank you again for showing up on a Saturday morning. Appreciate your patience. Hare Krishna. Yes, Monica.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class. So I wanted to ask a question. You mentioned that in the morning it's best for spiritual activities like the japa per se, and then during the day productivity and evening reflection. But what if your schedule doesn't allow you to do that, so and you work maybe night shift? So what is the second best time, I guess, for japa when it's, you know, not during Brahma Muhurta? When how can you adapt to that, because you know it's against your nature to be up at night?
I understand. If life circumstances are like that, like somebody's job, you're having a night shift or something, then the basic underlining thing for japa is attention. It's not about chanting in the morning or the evening. Why we speak about chanting in the morning is when the mind is somewhat empty from the influences of the day. When if you see in the morning, if you wake up early and see the world, it's much quieter, it's much easier to focus. That is why we say do it early. That is the first thing to do. However, if life demands, for nothing is permanent in life, things constantly change. Even though it looks like this is how life is going to be today, life constantly changes. No one will eternally have a night shift. So currently do the best. If it is for any number of months, if immediate reality looks like this is how it's going to be, there is no need to panic, because Krishna also understands. He also knows what we are going through. So do the best within that, within the time you get. And all you have to make sure is, like, if you are at least physically not too tired, try to chant in a time when you are not physically too tired, and you could have some attention, some proper attention as much as possible, whichever part of the day that could be. But at least you should be nicely physically rested and be of a little bit less anxious as much as possible, if it is possible. So try to do that. And yeah, and eventually you will, means life constantly changes, then you will have a different situation where you will get to chant in the morning. So then you'll
Okay,
be more
thank you.
grateful for that opportunity. You will come to value.
Yes, I do prefer chanting in the morning, so the difference is definitely there.
Yeah, the difference is definitely there. But what do you do when
Yeah.
situation is beyond our control? So that is the whole concept of detachment, is like you accept the life as it is and face it with the optimism of, okay, what is the best I could do in this situation? So that's the concept of being equanimous or resilient or being detached. So accepting life is the first step. Okay, this is the situation. How do I act in, like, the best with my ability currently?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for showing up this morning. Thank you, Hare Krishna, Mother Indra.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
So
Krishna.
I'm
Hare
so happy to see you,
Krishna.
Hare
Flavia, here.
Krishna.
Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
और कंफर्म कर लीजिए सब लोग। हरे कृष्णा, थैंक यू सो मच।
See you, Flavia. What's your daughter's name?
Clara, say
Mara.
hi.
Morning. Morning, Mara. Okay. Let's
Busy.
nice to see you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Drop by sometimes. Let me know if you're visiting anytime, we can see each other.
yes, that would be nice. And also, like, and maybe next class, can we start or finish like offering our day or our class to Krishna?
Oh, how to offer, you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah, sure. We can connect with
we,
that.
yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Flavia, Hare Krishna.
Bye.